Hi, this is Ed, and welcome to Global TV Talk Show, uh, a unit of Global Business News TV. We're about to welcome people into the studio today, and we're going to begin right now with Annika Ahmed from Sweden. Hold on. Our special program today features Andrew Element, who will be joining us in progress, and we have a few others who will join that conversation. And we're going to begin momentarily. Hello, Attica. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you, and you look wonderful and very, very healthy.
Thank you. Yes. And good
Yeah,
to be back on Ed's broadcast. I've been missing it.
yeah, we've been missing you too. It's been a long time. We're going to be joined now by Ken Lloyd. You've met him
Oui.
in the past.
Yes. Yes.
Great. We are recording now as we get into this conversation. And hello, Ken.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Ken.
How's everyone? Oh, hi, Atika. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Nice to see you again.
That's
Thank you.
great. Welcome. We are recording, and we're going to be joined now by Dr. Frank Beckman from Berlin, and this will be his first time on this program. I'll make the introductions. I have a frog in the throat. We were in Phoenix for a few days and came in last night and adjusting. Hello, Frank. Welcome. You're on mute. Mute. Fix your sound, please. Thank you.
Oh
Yeah, your
yeah,
sound.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
Hi Edwin, nice meeting you. Nice meeting everybody. Thanks for the
yeah.
invitation.
Okay, so this is Dr. Frank Beckman. He's in Berlin. This is Dr. Ken Lloyd. He's in LA.
Nice
Nice to
meeting you
meet
again.
you.
Hi.
And this is Attica Ahmed, who's coming to us from the
Sweden.
Stockholm, Sweden
Yes. Yes.
area. And
Wow, amazing. Hi.
Dr. Frank Beckman and I met as a result of our previously introduced friend, Louisa Annette from Cologne, Germany, uh, who has been a guest on several of our programs in the past. And I was very fortunate that she passed on my name and a sample of our programs to Frank in Berlin a few months ago. And then we finally connected uh, the past month or two. Greg, thanks very much for your time. I just want to make an announcement here that we are recording, and uh, our special guest, Andrew Element in London area, is in a conference call. It's running late. He'll be here by 8:30 my time. And for those of you who have to jump off, um, we'll send you the finished program. The program will extend beyond 9 my time towards 9:30. Uh, so, Frank, why don't you do the honors yourself? You could get into it much more clearly, articulating what you're doing these days and something about your background. I want to say that he is extremely well known in his field. Pardon me.
Okay, I take over so you can take your time, Edwin, to get your
Thank
voice back. So yeah, welcome everybody. I'm a bit surprised that I should present. I was not prepared, but I'm always looking forward to have some surprises. I'm here in Berlin. I'm coming actually from a family business in the third generation. So I have an entrepreneurial DNA because I grew up in all that business. I worked 25 years on C-level in various companies in Europe and in Asia. I founded GVI Investment Advisory, where I work with VCs, family offices on the one side, on the other side with innovation, startup, and scale-ups. I love that because working with founders and with innovation is so important nowadays because they need our expertise and experience, but we need their mindset to be open to new things and to know what exponential growth really means and where we are heading to. Besides, I'm coach. I'm a systemic coach and mediator. I'm leadership coach. I did programs for leaders, mostly on C-level. I do coaching always. I set up a program which I want to launch in summer. I just wrote a leadership book about, let's say, changing perspectives, kaleidoscope leadership. I'm at the moment looking for a right publisher to bring that into the shelves. And I'm always trying to think different. I learned in my career not to think from the past linear, but to think from the future. And there was one project where I really learned that, and now I look to everything from the future, and that's wonderful. That's amazing. So now the startup guys, they suddenly understand me, which is great, right? So that's in a nutshell me. We had great conversation with Edwin. He's a great guy. I'm really happy and pleased to be here in this community, and I'm looking very much forward to knowing you and to see what happens here.
Yeah, thank you. This is really going to be a dynamic program. As I mentioned, Andrew Ellerman is not going to be able to join us, so he gets off this conference call, which he said will be by 1:30, and then we'll go forward. Andrew Ellerman and I met maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little longer. He's the European head of business for a giant relocation management company called AGS, which has its ownership and management of moving companies, household goods, transit organizations, and people services related to the relocation of talent across borders worldwide. And he, I guess, got bored one day, and he decided he and a buddy are going to get physically fit and try to climb Mount Everest. And so he's going to talk about that. He actually did that until an earthquake interrupted that. And he discovered the beauty as well as the challenge of charity, helping people in Nepal who were suddenly devastated from a serious earthquake, never mind his own quest to climb Everest and all of that investment. And so he's going to be talking about that. For that, I gave him our own self-important business award called Communicator of the Year for the strategy and the technique and the decisiveness and the continued pressure management of getting in shape physically and mentally for a climb and survival of return as well. And then he went on to learn how to swim at 50 years old because he said, I need to cross the English Channel. And he's going to talk about his efforts. He went 20 miles and needed to stop. It was quite a nice story, dramatic. And I'm going to let him get into the detail. But his late mother spoke to him while Andrew was slugging it out in the English Channel, a message saying, you've done enough. And he found it okay to stop. And so his book, his newest book, From Everest to the Channel and crazy stuff, is all about that. And so I'm giving him the second edition of the Communicator Award because the guy is just indefatigable and he's just so strong. I want to introduce you to Dr. Ken Lloyd, PhD in organizational development, psychology. Ken, please do a much better job.
Well, again, Frank, it's very nice to meet you. Sidebar, I really believe in getting those kinds of messages, and I think we have to keep our minds open to that. I think there's so much more to all of this. And when that happens, he certainly was right to heed the message. Something from deep within or maybe beyond was giving him some good advice. So we have to be very sensitive to those messages that we get wherever they may come from. I think it's a great story that he heard that from his late mom. And we never know how those messages are going to come, but but they do. We've all had them, and they're wonderful experiences. Anyhow, my background, real quickly, is that I had gone to Berkeley and then UCLA for a doctorate in org behavior. Then started in consulting, and ultimately had my own consulting practice, focusing within with training, development, organization, certainly a lot of management development kind of work. Along the way, I've written several business-related books, as well as had an advice column that ran for 20 years in a bunch of different papers. It was syndicated by the New York Times for 10 of those years, and continued doing my writing and teaching part-time over at the UCLA Anderson School in the MBA program. Did that for many years. I have not done it recently. That's changed over the years, but did that as well. Joined one of my clients for 18 years as VP of Employee Planning and Development. They're one of the largest manufacturers of medical apparel in the world, and stayed with them, built up internally what was going on in that organization to focus on culture, psychological safety, employee development, and related topics. And since I left the company a few years ago, I've mainly been doing exec coaching, certainly coaching of former individuals with whom I worked with, and continuing my writing. I had a book come out a year ago, December, a dummies book, Performance Appraisals and Phrases for Dummies, and continuing to write. Like you, I have another book now that I'm looking for a publisher. So there we go. Anyhow, again, once again, it's very nice to meet you, and certainly to see Atika again, and Ed, of course.
Attica is,
Thanks.
of course, from a different background than me, for sure. And I welcome you, Attica. Again, this is many times that you've appeared on our program. I'm really grateful. Frank, she is a human resource leader and involved in this mining company at a senior level. Attica, please introduce yourself to Frank.
Yes. So, hi, Frank. And it is always great to be here, Ed. And Ken, I always learn so much whenever I am in the audience from you. So, and Frank, listening to your background and what you do, it's very interesting. I have no books that I've written, but yes, someday later about many topics that I can write about. Yeah, so professionally, I am a global mobility person, and global mobility is my niche and where I always want to be. So I have moved from this company ABB. I don't know if you've heard of it, ABB and Hitachi, to now, like Ed mentioned, a Swedish mining company called Boliden. And we are into mining and smelting. We're the oldest company of mining in Sweden. It's huge, and it is the task that I am doing right now is extremely interesting, because that's like a dream come true for a global mobility professional. So I have been in global mobility since 2015, and working as a global mobility professional. But then this change that I made last year to Boliden was to set up global mobility in their organization. They didn't have internal global mobility, and we can outsource a lot of things, but internal global mobility has its place, and it really cannot be outsourced, because there is so much that is going on in the organization, and to be at the pulse of the organization and find out ways for the organization to perform better, to like bring talent and mobility together. So I'm setting up mobility in Boliden. So it's a long road, but it's a very, how should I say, it's very, I learn every day, because I need to go back and unlearn everything to come to a point to design a structure which matches the organization. I've been in organizations like ABB and Hitachi where global mobility was set. Everything was set. The systems were set. But to set up everything from scratch in an organization, you have to unlearn and listen. And that's also speaks to me when we talk about listening to ourselves. I do tend to listen a lot to my gut. So no voices as such that come, but it's more like to be more so connected to oneself. And it has never gone wrong for me, I would say. And also I will share here that I am going through breast cancer treatment. And that also, it was a learning, because that also opened that door for my body to talk to me. Because working in global mobility is very stressful, and the previous years I've been like working and not ignoring the voices of my body. So now, when the cancer came back again, it was like the moment I was like, yeah, I need to listen. So yes, so the voices from everywhere, from my body, from my like I'm listening to my body. And also I have a 13-year-old nonverbal autistic son, and he can't frame what he wants to say. So I'm his voice as well. And I listen. As a mom, I can understand his every grunt, what he needs, every sound that he makes, what does it point to. So that is also listening at some elemental level. So yeah, listening is very important. So I'm here.
Attica, you are a blessing for me and the audience to learn of this. And you've become a life coach, not only for yourself, but for your son. But now that I've learned that, but more so, you're coaching the executives of a macho company, I would guess, a mining company, about the human aspects
Yeah.
and
Yes,
how
definitely.
mobility experiences
Oh, oh,
are so valuable to
absolutely.
the macho company
Mm,
long term, because
mm,
because they're actually focusing on human needs,
mm,
and that's the
mm,
talent development aspect. Frank, would
mm,
you agree?
Absolutely, Atika. It's very impressive. There's a lot of wisdom you already have, so don't worry about the book that will come if you flow over and if you have the time for doing that, because it sounds like you're very busy doing that. But I love your mindset to unlearn. It's like the Otto Scharmer U-curve, let's say, really, because that's what we need at the moment, to go ahead in a different way and not to just continue the linear past we had. So it was great opportunity, or let's say you have seen it, you have perceived it as an opportunity, and you have seized the opportunity to start from the scratch to build that. I really love it. It's very impressive, and well, yeah, it's amazing. So love hearing that, and that's an amazing job. Yeah, and all your voices you have to handle, and seeing
yeah,
that as a positive challenge to learn and to grow, and to find yourself in that. I think this is utmost important.
So,
mm,
Attica, this is a communicator award announcement. I'm hereby saying you are also a communicator of not only the year, but for all
yeah,
time here. I didn't learn of this, and I know you've been struggling with your health the past few months, and this is the first time in a few months that you're back with us. And so
yes.
we pray for your success. A lot of people need you now. Not to put more pressure on you. No, no.
I will
But
share something like a practical thing, why global mobility is important, because two of our units, one in Finland, had to slow down the production because of some tax changes that happened in Finland, in that region. And one of the unit in Sweden had to close down for almost half a year, reduce the production because there was seismic activity. And that meant a lot of people are like on the bench or being terminated. So when we got to know, I prepared a business plan step by step and presented it to the business, that how global mobility can use deployment instead of termination and save that talent and retain that talent, and then the pros and cons of letting people go versus keeping that talent and redeployment of them in other countries and other places. So yeah, so today also I had a detailed discussion with a business manager about it, and he's the head of the business. But so yeah, so it's something that mobility, whenever you are internally in the organization, you can really talk for the employees there and not, just go the obvious way of termination, and rather than looking for opportunities for the employee, not just for the business.
So I want to say here briefly, Frank, just as an update, Dr. Ken Lloyd and also well-known authors Paul Falcone, who's on the board of AMA, American Management Association, and Stephen Howard, author of more than 20 books on business leadership. I'm very happy to make sure you are introduced to these other people. I'm very happy to get that going for you, and you take it from there. They will be on, not this show this time, but on frequent others. I think what you're doing is really wonderful, and I'm really graced to have your interest at this early stage. So I've been, just so you know, and the audience out there, I've been bootstrapping my own business since 1976, and I am not rich. I'm rich because of the experiences, for sure, and the application of my own thinking through situations on how to be a better talk show host. Who would ever think? But COVID crashed into my 30 years of producing live meetings in March of 2020. And then I decided I had better learn how to be on camera and use this as an opportunity for communication and not be afraid. And then that has morphed into being my own form of coach on media prep and media presence. And Dr. Ken Lloyd has been, and he's an advisor for sure, and a frequent speaker on prep and organization and communicating clearly with staff and executives. Ken, please do more than me on that topic.
Oh, as I listen to Frank and to Atika, I'm quite moved by what they're doing. Atika, it's very easy for people to talk about being strong and having internal faith and focusing positively. To hear what you're experiencing and what you're doing is so much more moving and meaningful and impactful and wonderful. Whether you write a book on this or not, obviously the book would be so inspirational to hear what it is deep within you that gives you this wonderful strength that you have. But in terms of communication, a lot of words get thrown around and people talk about all sorts of things of being strong, doing your best, stepping up to challenges, working hard, and all. And there you are, and going through what you're going through with just so much. I don't even know. I don't like the word class. I don't like the word dignity, but just inner strength, inspirational strength that you have, I think is just remarkable and wonderful. And as Ed said, we pray for your continued excellent health and recovery and continued all the good deeds that you're doing in this world, in your work and for your family. And, you get a major thank you from us as a truly inspirational individual.
Thank you,
That's
Ken.
what comes to mind.
That really means a lot. And I'm not saying it lightly, because I feel that is, the support is something that keeps one going. It can
So
never
you
be.
found this, some people will collapse from all this pressure that you're dealing with, and you seem to have flipped it and make it an energy source for you.
But when Frank said that, looking in the future, because that's what I do, I don't look at the present or the back. I always look at the future, because that's what keeps me going. Because I I believe that future is good. So then there's no point in hanging on to the present. It resonated with me, Frank, when you said that.
Wonderful, wonderful. I recently did just a thought project, and I thought, what happens to us if we do not remember, if we let go of the past totally? That will mean we live totally in the present, and we are very sensitive about the future if we don't have that past. And just making this as an experiment, a thought experiment, is very interesting.
Mm.
Fascinating. I have just an update. I have not received any negative info from Andrew, so he must be on his way to tuning in. He said it would be about 1/2 past the hour. We're there, so we'll continue. Audience out there in the world, as you could tell, this is not rehearsed, but it is just a tribute to you, Attica, and Frank. Thank you, sir. And Ken, of course. Very quickly, as an aside, our reach through LinkedIn primarily, but also the YouTube channel and our own globalbusinessnews.net, and connecting out to X and Facebook and more. Eventually, there's over 1 million eyeballs. Whether or not they watch the whole thing, no control over that. LinkedIn measures everything, of what's on their network. And they've sent me a report that between January 1 and April 10, 28% of the LinkedIn viewers of various shows, this is average figures, are senior level within companies having more than 10,000 employees. So that means global. Now, many of those companies are US based, but they have extensive holdings everywhere. And a little bit looser, they said that 60% are also in senior levels, mostly talent, people, human resources related things, learning and development, mobility, of course, recruitment, assessment, onboarding, all of those HR things. More than 60%, a little bit more than 60% of the viewers of the various videos that I put out on LinkedIn, according to their measurements, are in senior level in HR talent related things in companies having 1,000 or more. So that is the business reason for this to succeed eventually with monetization, getting sponsors to advertise and more memberships. Frank, this is for your ears, of course, but also for the world out there. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. And because then YouTube, once I get to a certain level, I forget what that number is, then YouTube opens up their algorithms more and then spreads whatever around. So everybody, please sign up. YouTube, youtube.com/@ Global TV Talk Show, singular. Okay, or you could reach me directly, editor at Global Business. No, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Editor Global Business News at gmail.com. Dr. Frank, tell us about your project at Harvard.
No, I tell you something else.
Oh, okay. See, there's free flowing.
Free flow. No, that was actually the past. I would like to elaborate a bit also what Attica says, learning from the future.
Thank you.
Because we are in the times at the moment where we have dramatic change. And before we change structures or processes, we need to change the mindset. And without the proper mindset, we will not be able, let's say, to implement AI and humanoids, robots, and quantum and everything which comes in the right way. And this is, for me, very important to help people to change their mindset in the right way, to see it in the right way. On the one hand, like Attica, seeing it positive, but also seeing, let's say, the risk of that one. This is, for instance, why my book is about, because it narrows down the perspectives we have. If we ask ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever, we get a consolidated information. Yeah, but we don't compare anymore. We don't get 3, 4 different opinions and make our own mind. Now the AI is doing that for us. I think that's very dangerous, because we need to be able to look to things from different perspectives. And this is something where I'm standing for, which is very important, which is part of my mission, to keep that up while we are really heading very fast into the future. And I think most people, and it's also for me, it's difficult, we are just at the start of acceleration. We all think this is already very speedy, very dynamic, accelerating very fast. No, the real acceleration will come in the next 4, 5, 6 years. And if we don't prepare now, then I think we will lose out and we will not keep pace with what is there to come. I think that keeps this as Harvard as well, I hope.
Ken?
Totally agree with what Dr. Beckman, with what Frank is saying. Yeah, it's coming at an exponential rate. It's faster and faster and faster. And you're right, if we don't really step back and take a look at what is really occurring and what we want to occur, and certainly to remember, as Frank suggested, that it's very easy to become isolated, and suddenly the inputs and ideas that we're receiving are narrower and narrower until they come down to us alone on a screen. And we're missing so much of the world, so much of life by doing that. Humans did not evolve that way. And that's why there are a lot of recommendations that are given to people. If you really want to reconnect, put down the phone, get rid of all the technology, and go out into nature. You don't have to climb Mount Everest. If you can, that's wonderful. But to get out there and get back to where we came from, do some deep breathing, some exercising, and kind of reset, restart yourself. It's so easy to get caught up in this exponentially moving rate of change and that express that's going along so fast that we miss a lot, and we end up shorting ourselves, shortchanging ourselves, and coming out, if you will, less effective and even less honest to ourselves and to the world as a result. So we do have to step back, and when we see ourselves getting overly hooked on that very limited range of information that we're getting, to say, stop, this is not healthy physically or mentally, and I'm gonna take real time and say, well, is that wasting time? No, it's making excellent use of your time. So when you do return, you're that much more effective.
100%, Ken. Thanks very much. That brings me a bit to Attica's story, because this is the story of life experience. This is like going out into the nature. This is experience how life is, and not being hooked in social media and all these artificial world, but still connecting to, let's say, the physical world we have around, and all the experience, all the encounters we have. Because from that we are really learning. And learning is not about acquiring knowledge. It's about changing the way we think and we perceive.
Yeah, yes, and one thing that I really did learn when I said about unlearning was also about stopping myself from going in and telling what I want other people to understand, but stepping back and listening to them first, and then modifying what I want to educate or make them aware of or set the precedent of based on what I listen from them. Maybe the journey would be slower and longer, but at least it will be customized to what my organization needs, rather than, this is the right thing to do. Of course, we will reach there, but taking one step at a time. Also, that is also my life theory, one step at a time, not going full steam ahead.
Attica, Was it hard for you to convince the executives of the mining company to care more about people? They
No,
probably already
actually,
cared about people, but
yes,
they didn't
I think.
understand the role of mobility.
Yes, exactly. Because they don't, because mobility is new for them. It's only since last year when I joined. So for them, it's always a pleasant change to hear that mobility has a solution for them. And Booli then is such a people company. They always take people first approach. So it's not hard to convince them about anything that is people focused. So it's also a very conducive environment for me to work because I'm also a very people person. So so how to get the balance between the business cost and budget and be also human focused and employee focused.
What kind of assignments have clicked, quote unquote, clicked with the senior executives that they're employing as a distributed work idea rather than a termination?
Yeah, I think the commuter move is
Hmm.
because the kind of business we are in, we have different projects in like we have a presence in Finland, Norway, Ireland, and Sweden extensively. Like short-term projects, and that is something that really clicked for them. They're sending people for short term for to each of the business entities in different countries so that they can learn and also teach and make use of this time of the lower production time for a year probably to use that time to be like to use it more like effectively. So yes, so it's more commuter, but because of the nature of our business, so there is less of long term. But I think in general, the trend for long term assignments has gone down. It's more like short term assignments and commuters, where people go from home country to host for a certain time and then come back to their home country and work, and then or stay, not work. But yeah, so it's more that.
Attica, recently it has dawned on me that, and probably others, but haven't heard much of the conversation, for companies that really want to send people on a cross-border assignment
Mm.
for customer development, for experience, for asset development, or whatever, problem solving. Andrew Elliman's going to arrive right now. And have have they, or why wouldn't they have enforced the idea that people must do this, work remotely? Like, for instance, I'm here in San Diego, California on the Mexican border, and you're in Stockholm. So I'm basically working in Stockholm with you and working in Berlin with Frank. And so before you go spend the money on an international relo, and this is Andrew Elliman, I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to him in just a minute. Uh, Enforcing the idea of working remotely to get to know people and to make relationships and learn something about that destination for future deployment in person. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, of course. Yes, and that is one topic that is very hot for our company also because sometimes the expertise doesn't lie in the countries that we are present. But remote work brings a lot of compliance issues. So there has to be some kind of a limit for the days that a person can be working from another country because then there are a lot of risk and then assessment and everything. So it brings a lot of cost. Therefore it's not a very until unless we have this kind of setup of employer of record that was also very popular, where there is a company that creates a presence and then you can employ anyone anywhere, and then they're actually paid by them and everything, and they're working for, like, say, Sweden bully then, but sitting in South Africa. That's comes with a lot of compliance issues. But yeah, Andrew is here. I'm really looking forward to hearing from him. So I will stop.
Everybody, Andrew Ellerman. Andrew, let me do the honors here. This is Dr. Frank Beckman in Berlin. He's involved in investment advisory at a large level. And Attica Ahmed is HR and mobility consultant to a very large mining company based in Sweden called Boliden, Boliden. Yeah.
That's
And
correct.
and you've met my friend Dr. Ken Lloyd in the past in LA.
Okay.
Everybody, this is Andrew, my good friend and business advisor and customer. And Andrew, thank you so much for your time here. I wanted to make these introductions. We have had an unrehearsed conversation the past 30, 40 minutes, which has just been wonderful. And Andrew, Communicator of the Year in the past, and now the book, 10 years out, has happened from Everest to the channel and listening to messages. So, and then communicating about the determination and the execution, and before execution, planning and development and physical and mental prep and dealing with all the BS that comes with everything, never mind family obligations. You do a lot for charity. So I'm not buttering you up. I'm just trying to set the stage here about this is a cool guy. And I'm really happy to have you on the show again. Andrew, please self-intro and let's get into your book.
Yeah, thank you, Ed, and nice to see everyone. So my name's Andrew. I've been in the global mobility area for 40 years now, and I love it. Absolutely love that part of my industry and what I do. But I also have another side to me. So as well as working hard and working in the global mobility area, I also I'm an explorer. An explorer by chance, I always say, because I didn't set out to be an explorer to begin with. And it's now become something that I love doing. I've got some world records under my belt, and I've been fortunate enough to take on some of the biggest challenges there are in the world. And I thought after 10 years of my first challenge, my first real big challenge, I'd write a book about it and what happened, and actually put down what actually happens. Because so the big one I would say is like Everest. And people just imagine you standing on top of Everest with a flag and all the things that come with Everest. In my book, I actually put down everything to get to that point and what happened in between. So the first time I tried to climb Everest to the summit was 2015. And I got caught in the worst earthquake Nepal had ever seen. And it nearly cost me my life. And it really changed my aspect and my outlook on what summits really look like. So I've now used that within my own life, but also at work as well, to make sure that, you know, it's understanding how that can affect different people. Everyone's climbing an Everest, I always say. So, but then in 2018, I went back to Everest. I broke a world record for the highest dinner party in the world. So we have a Guinness World Record for that as well. And then in 2018, my wife said to me, look, you need to do something at sea level because you nearly died so many times up the mountain. So I was like, okay. So my biggest fear at that time was water. I couldn't swim at the age of 48. And so I announced that I was going to swim the English Channel, so swim from England to France. And my wife nearly fell on the floor because she was like, you just don't like water. Like, so in my mind, it was like, all I need to do is learn to swim, practice, get fit, and take on the challenge. How hard could it be? I joked. I said, it's not like I'm going to get caught in an earthquake. And I had to eat my words because we got caught in the pandemic. So all my training happened in the pandemic, and it all stopped, or was supposed to stop, when the pandemic kicked in and we weren't allowed to do anything. But I started swimming up and down a local river, 2 miles up and down a river through the whole year, through the winter and everything, and overcome those sort of obstacles that get in the way. So I'd been doing talks around the world about my experiences, and one of the things that comes out is resilience. So when I put it in the book, I was trying to understand for myself, what does this all mean? And I think the first time I wrote the book was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I didn't like it. I literally deleted it all. I didn't like what I'd wrote. And then a good friend of mine who works at the World Bank said to me, just write the story for yourself, not anyone else. Right? And that was the best bit of news I ever had, because when you start writing for yourself, you start processing everything that you did and why did you do that? You know, I even questioned in the book myself, why did I put myself in this position to do this? And, you know, why did we overcome this? And although the book is out there, the book was really something that when you put it into words, it's really different. I know you guys probably wrote books before, and you know, it's having that put on a page, opening up to the world what really happened. So I think the book will shock people because there's bits in there you will not be expecting to read. But I put it all out there into the story. And I thought 10 years later from that very first attempt when I got caught in the earthquake, it was relevant to release it now, just to tell my story. And hopefully, you know, people can take from that something.
Frank?
Yeah, amazing. I'm very much curious about your book and your stories. And I love that you say you didn't like water, and that's why you jumped into water, because this is really where we are learning, where we get experience. If we do the things outside of the comfort zone, if we see something which we don't like, and we just go for that. And that's really an amazing opening of a new door, of a new area, of a new space, let's say, where we can really grow into that one. So it's very impressive. I love it. It's amazing. Thanks very much for sharing.
In 2021, I took on the channel. I didn't make it all the way. I made it halfway. Right? So it's 21 miles in total, but you're dealing with the currents. So you don't go straight across it. You go like this across the channel. And I made it halfway, and my body gave up to a degree. But the guy on the boat, the pilot on the boat, said to me, "We've been following your story," and I had a reason to do it as well. But he said, "We've been following your story," and he said, "Do realize that you swam more in it today than most people swim in their whole lives?" And he said, "That's what you have to remember." And that stuck in my mind because I overcome my fear, and I can swim. I can only swim front crawl, though. That's crazy. I can't do any other kind of swim. I can do front crawl. But it was a learning curve. And I put in the book as well the reasons I did it for, and, you know, and I was processing at the time. When I announced that I was going to swim the channel, my mum was in a hospice dying. And one of my last conversations with my mum was, I've got another challenge. And she joked to a degree and said, "Please tell me it's not another mountain." And I said, "No, I'm going to learn to swim the channel." And she said, "Do it. Life's too short." And then 3 days later, she passes away. And so I went on this massive 3-year journey to practice, to learn to swim, to get through this whole process. And I even in my book, I tried to explain that, I don't know, maybe it was a part of me grieving, and it was my last promise to my mum that I'm going to learn to swim and swim the channel. And it's quite a feat when you start looking at things and why we're driven to do it. Because everyone always says to me, "Why do you do these things?" Like, and you know, what is it that makes you do this? And I think a lot of it comes down to, people say, like, people imagine what a climber looks like, imagines what a swimmer looks like. And I look nothing like either of those, but I like proving people wrong. I think it's also proving myself that I at least attempt it. If I don't succeed, that's fine, but at least I attempted it, and I know for myself. So that's one of the biggest things. But I use it in everything now. I mean, it's really opened up doors. And the book, since it's come out, and I've only really advertised on LinkedIn, I've had people invite me onto talk shows. I've had companies asking me to go in and give talks to their senior leadership teams. And I'm always amazed at what they get from my story. And it is just my story, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, Andrew, let me tell you and the audience out there that in my intro and my early remarks before you arrived in the studio, I mentioned that while swimming, you received a message from your mom.
Yeah.
That's, and I'm paraphrasing,
Yeah.
it's okay, the message. And my eyes are watering right now telling you this stuff, you know.
I was 5 hours into my swim, and I'd been going quite well, but the English Channel, you swim it in a pair of Speedo swimming trunks. That's it. Like, you've got a cap on your head and you got a pair of trunks on. That is all you've got on. So when you have a feed, every hour they give you a feed, they chuck a bottle to you to get it down. You've got 30 seconds to get that food in and get swimming again. Otherwise you get hypothermia. That's how cold it is. It's like about 14 to 16 degrees, the water. So if you think that the average swimming pool is 29 degrees when you go into a swimming pool, so it gives you an idea of how cold it is. But it's salty, it's rough water, it's waves, you're next to a boat, and it's you've got jellyfish, everything you can think of is hitting you at once. Like, so 5 hours into the swim, where I'd been swimming next to the boat, literally to the right hand side of the boat, I started veering off and coming back. And sometimes I was good, 50 meters away from the boat. So my coordination was going wrong. So there was definitely something going on. Now, I know from the training that I did at Dover Harbour, which was 16 weekends straight in the summertime, where I had to go and swim on a Saturday and Sunday for 7 to 8 hours around the harbour without getting out the water, just how difficult it was going to be, because it's cold, it's dirty, you're sick at the same time, you're swallowing salt water all the time, it corrodes your tongue, people don't tell you how it damages your teeth, right? But all of that, I realized that there was many times where I thought I was getting hypothermia when I was training. And the brain is designed to protect your heart. So it will convince you you're getting hypothermia even when you're not. So many a time I went to get out and my instructor was saying, no, give me another 2 hours. You stay in the water. You're fine. We'll send a canoe out with you, a kayak out with you, and they'll stay with you, but you're staying in the water. And I never got hypothermia, but I was shivering, proper shivering. If you go out into the cold, you get that shiver coldness. So I know the brain will play on your mind to use whatever it was. Now, when I was in the ocean, and I've been swimming for 5 hours, and things started to go wrong. My feeds went wrong. I wasn't getting enough food down me, and my coordination was off. So at that moment, I knew I'm not going to get to France, right? I'm not going to get to France. But then as I had my head down, and when you look down into the ocean, all you see is little specks of salt and maybe some jellyfish underneath, probably a meter below you. And then it goes into a dark abyss. There's nothing else. There's nothing else in the ocean. You're a tiny person. But you go into like a semi-trance with as you're going along, because you're in a rhythm and you just got to get it done. And all of a sudden, clear as day, I hear my mum say, Andrew, it's okay. You've proved that you can swim now. You can get out. And at that point, to me, like one part of my head says, from a science sort of project from it, is that's just my brain using my most deepest thoughts to get me out the water because it wants to save my heart. It wants me out the water. But the other part of me says, is that the spiritual side of my mum actually being there? Because it sounded like when she said it, I mean, clear as day, and it came out the blue. I wasn't thinking about her or anything. It just came out the blue, and she just said, "Andrew, it's time to get out. You've learned to swim. You've proved what you're doing. Get out of the water now." And I stopped, and my team on the boat were like, "You could probably do another 2 hours." And I was like, but I'm not going to make France. So 2 hours that way just to be even more sick. I was already vomiting by that stage. And because I'd stopped and it was going over the 30 seconds, I was shivering. So I was like, no, I'm done. I'm out. And I didn't regret any of it. I didn't regret anything. I got out, got onto the boat. And like I say, the skipper, the pilot of the boat, there was two of them, father and son. He come over and he gave me a massive hug. And he said, "We've been following your story. It was never about France for you, was it?" And they got it. They understood it. I mean, they see lots of people swimming the channel, I imagine. So, but they just got me at that moment. And yeah, I was happy with what we'd done. I was really happy. I was doing it for a lot of charities as well, all the way through. I've been raising money for Community Action Nepal, helping the people over in Nepal, the mountain people up in Nepal. I've also been helping at that stage. I was helping when I did the channel. I also helped Keach Hospice Care where my mum was. So I raised some money for them. But I've continued to do that. I mean, not on such a big scale. I do quite big walks, etc. I know, Ed, you saw I did one 85 miles in a weekend, walking through the night and raising money for a young lad. I'd heard this young lad had a brain tumor and he needed assistance. So I got involved with that. Didn't know the person. It was just I heard the story and I said, we got to do something for this lad. Unfortunately, we raised quite a lot, but unfortunately he did lose his battle. But sometimes I think you've just got to take on these things, and if you can make a difference somehow. In my mind, it's like, why are we on this planet? I still ask that question today. What's the purpose of us being on this planet? We all work. That's fine. We work to have nice houses and go and have nice things. But what is it actually? What does it actually mean? Because when we're gone, and this sounds morbid, but when we're gone, people just sell off the stuff that you've collected for years. It doesn't mean anything to anyone else. It only means to us. So why collect all that stuff? And I saw that with my parents. When my mum passed away, my dad had already passed away to diabetes way before. We just boxed up everything and took it down a charity shop. It's like, because maybe one or two things that are sentimental you keep, but the rest of it goes. So I'm a big believer that you need to get out and do stuff, and it doesn't need to be massive like swimming the channel or climbing Everest. You just need to find your own Everest, go and do it. And if you enjoy it and it's not hurting anyone, harming anyone, then there's nothing wrong in that.
Erica.
Wow. I could go on listening to you, Andrew. And actually, Ed shared the link of your blog. So I read a bit about your time when you were in
Okay, yeah.
Everest and how the ground moved like waves.
Yeah.
And your daughter's message, just come back home. And then I started to read more, and then I didn't have time because I was at work. But yes, it's so interesting to hear you talk about it. There's so many takeaways for me. And sometimes you listen and then you digest, and then those reflections come back to you. So I am absolutely not surprised why people are calling you for talks, because yes, when you talk, you do make a difference. Yeah.
Thank you.
Dr. Ken Lloyd has to disappear here. And Ken, thank you for showing up again and the contribution. Do you want to end this?
I was just going to send a text. I didn't want to interrupt the momentum of our conversation, but just to thank each of you. This was such a moving and informative discussion beyond words. And Andrew, as I think of you in the field of global mobility, what a perfect description of you. I see the globe spinning behind Ed. I feel like I'm on the part of the Artemis team. And but you really are so mobile globally, from the highest point on the earth to the oceans and all these continents, and what you've done. You're a global person. You experience global mobility, so it seems, every day of your life. And to Frank and to Adhika, your comments about your experiences. I mean, this was just a totally moving experience for me today, and I just thank each of you and wish all of you the best of health and happiness going forward. I'm sorry I have to run, but I do have a hard stop. So all the best of each of you, and a giant thank you. You really, out of nowhere, made this such a moving day for me personally. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Ken.
you.
It's really great.
Frank, would you like to add to this?
I do have a question to Andrew.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I had been in Nepal, in Lower Mustang. Then I was looking at the Annapurna. And then a guy was there who was said to have been twice on the peak of the Mount Everest. And in the morning, he came to me and he said, Frank, you know, in the mountains until about 2,000 meters, we have nature, trees. Above, it's only rocks. What it means to me, he says, until 2,000 meters, if you walk up that high, it's human nature. Above, it's ego. How do you see that?
Yeah, I suppose when I first set out to do Everest, it was all about standing on top of the world. So it was an ego thing. I always say to people, it's the most selfish thing you can ever do, right? And I nearly proved it by not coming back. But you know, because you leave your family, your friends, your everything, to chance to stand on top of the world, like, and you could say that's crazy. Why? I think for me, I was in, I'd gone to Nepal. I'd summited other mountains before that. I'd climbed Mirror Peak, Island Peak, different peaks that are in around the Everest range, and I never thought I would ever get to do or even take on Everest. It's so expensive. It's $50,000 to climb, of which my wife said, you're not spending any money on that. Like, so you have to get sponsors, which I did. Luckily, our industry is very generous, and I got all the sponsorship for that to be able to do it. And going back to your point of above that is ego. I think it is to a lot of people, right? And I'll get a lot of people not liking this, because I saw firsthand different climbers that it's all about the peak, right? When I did it in 2015, it was all about the peak. We were going for the world's highest dinner party at the same time. But what happened and what I saw on Everest changed my views on why I was doing it. And there was a very famous climber, a guy called Doug Scott, who was the first Briton to climb Everest in 1975. And he did it with a guy called Sir Chris Bonington. And I became very good friends with the pair of them. And it was his charity that I was helping. And when I came back from Everest in 2015, having not completed the mission, I was devastated. I was devastated because of the families that lost their houses, and 9,000 people died across Nepal. But I was also devastated inside because I didn't stand on top of the mountain. And then Doug pulled me to a side and he said, you did summit, but you summited in a very different way, which would be far greater than ever standing on the top of Everest. This is someone that stood on top of Everest. And he said, what you're now doing for the charities and how you're helping the people of Nepal is far greater than any mountain that you can stand on the summit of. And that really humbled me and changed the way I did it. And in 2018, the dinner party, I mean, yeah, it was a world record. And if I'm honest, I'm not I'm not overly, I'm not I wouldn't say I'm a world record chaser or anything, and it means nothing, right? It means nothing, but it helped to raise a lot of money for the charity. So when we did that, for me, it was all about raising money for that charity, because you're on a platform then, everyone covers it, right? And we had a celebrity chef there as well on 2015. Unfortunately, he got altitude sickness, so we had to send him down. But he designed the food again for us in 2018, which allowed us to carry out the mission as such. And it's the same with the channel. When I did the channel, I do it because I want to prove people wrong, and prove myself wrong, right? Because you can do things, you can learn things. They always say you can't teach an old dog new tricks here in the UK. Well, the honest, you can. I'm proof of that. But ego, I've seen a lot of people with big egos, and I don't like it. If I'm honest, I don't like it. I get asked a lot, would I go for summiting Everest again, or trying to summit Everest again? And I'm like, no. Like, it's something I needed to get out of my system. It's something I needed to prove to myself, but it's not something I would do again. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go and do it yourself. If that's your dream, go and do it, because it's great, right? But it's going back to what you're saying. There are a lot of people that, blind to what's going on around them, they still want to go for the summit, which I couldn't. I don't understand that myself. When things happen around you, you have to act around you. If you see some fellow person, whether you know them or not, and they're in danger or something, you got to help them. You can't just walk past them. But I can see why your friend probably said that. But it's the most amazing thing. It really is. And I feel my life is climbing Everest, but in a different way, if that makes sense.
Now, you weren't here earlier, but Attica described something very, very personal, and I want you to know about that. Attica, if you don't mind, please jump in at any time, because you could say it better than me. That she is dealing with breast cancer right now. And in addition to that, she's taking care of her son, who has disabilities. Attica, would you like to review that for the benefit of Andrew?
Yeah, so we were talking about, listening, and actually it started with Ed mentioning that when you were in the channel and you could have gone ahead, but then you heard that voice and you stopped, and it was okay. So then I mentioned about how listening is very important in every which way, and how I started listening back to my body. I had breast cancer in 2021, and then it came back in 2024, and now it is stage 4, and it is spread. And I also have my special needs son who's autistic, nonverbal. So I'm his voice. Actually, as a family, we are his voice, and but as a mother, mothers get it. So his every grunt, his every sound, I know what he wants. So it's at one point of time, you kind of everything else gets muted, and you listen. And maybe it's age, I don't know, or maybe it's experience, it's life-changing experiences that makes you go closer to yourself. So it has helped me professionally also to listen and to hear those cues that you might somehow miss in that hum and drum of life that goes on at a very fast speed. So it's always necessary to take a pause and listen in, and listen to your body, listen to the hidden things around, which you might not feel. So that's what Ed mentioned about the challenges at the moment. But yes, and I go back to Frank and his futuristic view, and how I wade through all of these, taking that as my mantra. to see one step at a time and seeing ahead, and not get stuck in that moment that, oh, my challenge is so much. No. The next moment it would be better, and then you will just regret that you wasted your present that was then, by thinking, you know, yeah, negatively. But yes, yeah.
As they say, make the most of today and not tomorrow,
Yes.
because tomorrow is always going to be the day ahead of today. So today is the important day, I think. You know, we live in the present. We don't live in the future. We don't live in the past. We live in the present. And, you know, and you have to think forward, obviously, like, but at the same time, you know, you can only control today, now, right now, you know, and that's how what I've learned from things, you know. And I'm sorry to hear you're going through that at the moment, and I hope you're getting help from people. But also, well done for talking about it, because people don't talk about it. They hide it away. They don't tell people what's going on. And sometimes I think the minute you tell people, you don't want pity from them. You're not looking for pity from them. What you're looking for is just someone to understand, or just listen. Just listen to what's happening.
And especially for my son, I talk about it a lot. And I come from India, where culturally we don't talk about these things so much. It's somehow considered that, you know, I mean, not okay to talk. But for me, it's very important to talk about things that matter. And of course, things like, because then I become, or my family becomes, an advocate for my son, who can't be an advocate verbally himself. So, yeah. But when you talk about living in the moment, yes, living in the moment. But when there is a challenge, I will be honest, I always look at the future, that, yeah, the future is going to be good.
Yeah,
so
I think you're right there. Definitely right there. Definitely right.
Frank.
Yeah, we had that before, Andrew, the discussion that we look at things from the future, but what is meant is not living in the future, let's say in dreams or visions, whatever, but looking from the future to our present at the moment, and not looking from the past to that one, because that won't work anymore. That worked very fine past 100 years, I don't know. But now with all the exponential growth, with all the technologies are there to come, it's important to look from the future to define what we do next, and how to evaluate our present, what we have at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, you know what you'd like it to be for the future, but will it? You know, and I could use that on Everest. So, you know, the summit wasn't what I expected. My summit was different. My summit was, you know, helping the people of Nepal rather than the actual summit. It's you know, and I think everyone's going through an Everest. You're all climbing your own Everest right now. And, you know, and it depends where you are on that part of the mountain at that time, you know. And yeah, it's just looking at things differently. I think everything that I've done, it's allowed me to understand people a lot more, for sure. You know, never judge a book by its cover is one of the best things that's ever been said. You know, and make time for everyone as much as you can. Make time for everyone, and I say that to people in work as well. You know, I work in sales of all things. I mean, you know, I head up the sales side for the group. So, you know, it's people say, how can you do both? And I'm like, no, but it's just understanding. Sales is just telling people, you know, if this is right for you, this is what will you if you like that and it's right for you, you'll like it. You know, if it's not right for you, then that's fine too. It doesn't matter. It's just working out the correct pathway for everyone.
Andrew, thank you. I invite you now to use my screen share, if you'd like, to show a slide of the front cover of the book. And I also invite you to display that slide that displays you climbing the mountain with a backpack and the 7 steps applicable to business.
So I'm not sure. I didn't know. I didn't put a slide together actually.
No,
So
I know. As a sneak attack.
yeah. So the book. Have I even got
But
the book
if you
here?
can't do
Not
it, it's all
prepared.
right.
It's
Maybe you can just
not prepared.
describe. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things. I wrote about the 7 steps to climbing Everest, and the first step was like the vision. The vision standing on the summit. So the last step is the summit. So if you imagine now, whatever your summit is and your vision, they're pretty much the same. Like, the vision is to be here in the future, like you said, Frank, like you're thinking about the future, where you want to be in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, next week. Right? That's your summit. And to get to that, how do you get to the summit? So with Everest, the second thing that we needed to have was a team. So it was actually having a decent team that were going to be with you on this summit. But also, so as a team, what does that actually mean? It could mean, a team at work. It could be your team is your family. It's your friends, your network. You need to make sure they're the right people. So you need to surround yourself with the right people. So imagine Everest. You're on Everest for 10 weeks. If you go with the wrong person and you have to share a tent with them for 10 weeks, you're probably going to kill each other, right? So you have to make sure you got the right team. And I say this to people now, whatever you do in your life, surround yourself with the best people that reflect you, match you, people that you absolutely love to be around yourself, because that will allow you to gravitate from that as well. And you find them very easily. Like people will say, oh, I never find the right people. You can, if you actually, you can walk into a room and straight away listen to your body. Again, listen to your body. Your body tells you straight away which person you would like to associate yourself with. If you're in a networking thing, there's people there. I network all the time, right? And there's people I walk in a room and there's people I completely want to avoid, right? And then there's certain other people that I actually gravitate to. But the more you do it, they gravitate to you. So you don't even have to look for them in the end, because somehow the wavelengths of however this works brings you to those people. So, always, and I always say to people, stay positive on those kind of things. So building the team is a big thing. I think in my, because I'm spoken about the 7 steps for a long time, but sponsors was another one. So sponsors includes that, the people around you, the team, the people along that side. The other thing that I put in there was about knowing your limits. I think that's about number 6 in my list, because knowing your limits is, how far can you go before you need to stop, right? And how far can you go till your body says you can't, right? And I always find that you can go a lot further than people think and that you think, right? But you've just got to also know when to know your limit. You're not going to convince everyone. Like if you're working in an organization, especially a global organization, I always say to people, you want to set this global policy in place. That's great. It may work in America, it may work in the UK, it may work in France, right? It may work in China, but it may not work in Singapore, right? One of them is not going to like what you're doing. So know your limits and know how not to push them too far to bring them together. So I always talk about that as well. The other thing, you put me on the spot because I can't even remember. I own 7 steps now. The other thing I put in there was the sponsors, the sponsors, the training. That was it, part of the training. You have to condition yourself to train, and that's the hardest thing for me. I'm not a person that goes out running or training every day. If I've got an expedition or something, I do it. I run. When I was doing swimming, learning to swim, I was in the swimming pool in 5 o'clock in the morning for 2 hours, and then I was in the pool at 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock in the evening. I sacrificed that for 3 years. 3 years, right? And if I wasn't in the pool, I was in the river, right? But you have to condition yourself to do that. Same with writing my book. My book, everyone said, how did you do that? You got a full-time job, you work all hours. Well, I was getting up at 5 and conditioning myself again to doing the 5, get up at 5 to do all of the thing. I see Edwin's flashing a phone at me, but I can't see what's on there, Edwin.
Yeah, you know what? I just Googled you, and I said Andrew Elliman 7 steps. So step 1, summit. Step 2, know your limits. Step 3,
Yeah.
keep
It's
on
the other way around.
track.
It's the other way around. Keeping on track is the training. Yeah.
Keep on track. And then the next, plan a route.
Yes. Well, that's the other thing a lot of people didn't realize is when we planned Everest, when we originally set out to do Everest, we were going to climb up the Nepalese side, like everyone does. You climb up through the Khumbu Valley, and you climb up the normal steps that you would see. And then after a year of not having any interest in sponsorship, we came up with the idea of a world record to do a dinner party. But that meant, where's the flattest platform on Everest, which turned out to be on the Chinese side. So we then went round to China to do it from China to get up to 7,000 meters on Everest to do the dinner party, full in tuxedos and everything. And how do I look at that now? Well, that was fate for me, because that saved my life. Because if I was on the other side when the earthquake hit, I probably wouldn't be here today. So something led me in that way to do that side of it.
Well, that leadership turned out to be a godsend for protecting the team.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. So but then I think fate has a lot of things with everything. I think we'll all go through something horrible for our lives, like everyone does. That's why you never judge a book by a cover, and never judge that person, because you don't know what they're going through. Just because they're rude to you today doesn't mean they're rude normally. It just means you've caught them at a bad time. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. And I always say, as long as you're not hurting anyone or doing anything nasty to anyone, then that's the whole part to it.
So let me review quickly. Summit, know your limits, keep on track, plan a route, build a team.
Yeah.
And then the last 2, support and vision.
Yeah. So it's the other way around, actually, because you're going up, you've read it down, it goes up. So vision's the first one. Support is like your sponsors, and build a team. It's the fundamentals of what you can do in everything. If you think about that, like, what do you need to lead your life? Well, you need your support team. Your support team could be your family, could be your work, it could be your friends, it could be a mentor, but you need that support to go through. The next part is like, training. How do you train? Well, it's not about just training. It's about understanding what you need to put you where you want to be in that year or 2 years, 3 years, or week or month. What's going to get you to there? Like, how do you get that? I think nowadays they call it manifesting these days, but I don't see it like that. I just think it's like you have your plan and you go to execute it, but just be prepared. It won't always go the way you expect. There'll be curveballs all the way. And I think that's what I tried to get out in my book, is like, no matter what we did, whenever I said we were going to do this, it never ever went to plan. And I think that's the biggest thing. As they say, the journey's far greater than the finish, right? So I think that's the big thing that came out from that side.
Well, talking about a journey, this broadcast has been really wonderful for me, and I believe for the audience. There's so much meat and potatoes here, and just terrific. I just want to say, of course, thank you, but look ahead to a program note, April 29. I'm producing with Philip Berry a webinar about brand identity.
Okay.
Personal brand. and how important the personal brand has become for business leaders to recognize just not the professional brand, but it's the personal brand. And I believe, Andrew Element, that you are a perfect communicator, as is Attica. Totally different approach, but the way you're dealing with all these stresses and business opportunity, and how the way you've been doing it is an explanation or a display, if I may, of your personal brand. That you are teaching the executives of this mining company about how people can be used better. And it was a wake-up call for them. And now they are not terminating, they're redeploying assets. And it's a win-win. So it's beautiful. Frank, I'm really honored to have your interest the past 90 minutes here. And I welcome you to meet Philip Berry. Philip and I have been friends, business friends and personal friends now, starting in 1999. He at the time and for years after, before he retired from Colgate-Palmolive as global HR leader and operations connected with global HR in 60 countries. Now he is my client and advisor, board member, and he's almost as old as I am, and yet he's still relating and still creating these things about the need to understand self-branding and how important it is today. Andrew Element, you are the epitome of self-branding. How have you related all this stuff, which is magical in itself, not to mention your true life, day to day, and your family, and your dog, your black dog that you take fishing with. Yeah,
I do.
And here we are. I must say to the audience that because of Andrew and trust that has developed between us, I was honored and able to participate in a three-part series inside headquarters of HSBC, the Global Trading Bank, at their London headquarters. Thank you again, Andrew.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, that was my peak. And now I'm doing this. And I've gotten more into doing this. I've gotten much more comfortable. I call this, Frank, the global meeting room. The psych-safe place for business introductions and conversations. And this program is the epitome of that. Thank you, people.
Thank you, Ed. And the one thing that I really like about your programs is it's so unstructured. It just feeds on each other's positive and inputs, and we just go ahead. And we there's a start and there's an end to those topics. So it's not just randomly going from one end to the other, but it's so unstructured, but at the same time so
integrated.
Yeah, exactly.
I also
Well,
like to thank you, Ed. I think it's so important to have somebody like you. It's so valuable to bring the right people together and to build this online series, because there are not many who do it out of passion and really have the right people on board. So the community we gather around us is always a reflection of ourselves. And I'm very much impressed and inspired about what you're doing. And I thank you very much, and keep on going and extend that, because we need more ads like you at the moment to show us the right way and the right people.
Yeah,
Thanks very much.
two ads are better than one, right? So, so Andy, thank you again. Join us.
No, thank you, Ed.
If you can, everybody, for this April 29 event. And so we broadcast almost every day, something or other. But we're getting more into the high strength, high utility value of this communication device Zoom, and the YouTube channel for subsequent delivery, streaming, they call it in Hollywood. So I've learned as a result of doing this, but much more 50 years ago when I was just a kid. I worked, I was fortunate to be on the executive team. I was the youngest guy on that team, 27, 28 years old, watching movies in the office screening room. The owner, Sumner Redstone was his name, and he went on to put together Paramount Pictures and CBS and all that stuff. And then it was just sold for billions, as you know. But at that time, there was movie theaters, and they owned a lot of real estate. And they put movie theaters into different real estate. My job as a kid was to review movies from 27-year-old and where would they play in which theaters and why. And so I wrote reports. I used to be a college editor, but so I could put words together, and then I learned how to put words together to describe audience potential of certain movies and why. And he liked that, thankfully, and I was rewarded. So now I'm doing almost like a straight line to this today, orchestrating something out of not nothing. Everything is valuable, but just making it all work. It's a program. Thank you for being there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure meeting you all.
Come back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Thank
This
you.
is great. I don't want it to end, but I know you have other things to do. Ciao.